What do you guys think? What's the most important job of a musician, considering where we're at in society nowadays? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Some people would say, oh, music is completely useless. Can't change the world with that. Who are you going to save? Who are you going to affect when something as innocuous as playing music, especially jazz music, right? I mean, who listens to that anyway? But guess what? Music has actually been a super, like, fundamental aspect of cultural evolution throughout history. And we're not just talking about the United States either, folks. We're talking about all kinds of countries all over the world. And musicians and artists have helped raise awareness about all kinds of cool, stuff and human rights violations. And they've spread the messages, and they've raised people out of poverty and out of oppression in all kinds of different countries, not just the United States. And of course, in the United States of America, we have the civil rights movement. We have the hip hop movement. We have the beatnik movement. We have the hippies. We have all kinds of movements. And what's the one thing they all have in common? They're all centralized around music. I think there's a middle ground between these two extremes, between purely escapism and purely apolitical content, and content way, way, way over here that's kind of extremist, that kind of tries to prop up one side over another. Guys that try to, like, demonize this political party or that political party, or this, social movement over that social movement. I think it's important that musicians be aware of what's going on around them. That's all I'm saying. Just simply be aware. Let me know what you guys think about that. Do you agree with my assessment? Should musicians be aware of cultural issues, societal issues, or should music just exist purely as a means of escapism? Now, this doesn't just apply to big-brained issues like culture and society. It also goes for when you're on the stage, you're in your band or your orchestra or what have you. So many musicians are just completely in their own little world. They are totally disconnected from what's going on around them, and they're not being aware. Now, to me, that's a big, big, big issue. If you're in a choir, you need to have your eyes where? Down here in your sheet music? Probably not. You want to have your eyes right here, looking at your choir director the entire time. Talk about awareness. Some of you may not have heard, but there is literally a second United States of America civil war going on right now as we speak, as I'm broadcasting to you right now. And this is a tough topic to talk about. Not just because it's a tough topic to talk about, but also because if I say certain things, you might not be seeing me on this platform for very long, folks. But it exists. There is armed conflicts in the streets right now between revolutionary and counter-revolutionary political factions. It is taking place. It exists. And take one look at a place like Portland, at a place like Seattle, Washington. It's going on all over the country. How are we supposed to deal with this stuff? Is it really like the president's job to fly halfway across the country and bring in a bunch of tanks and army guys to go solve these problems? Really? Really? We can't figure out how to deal with these issues in a humane way, in a smart way, in a peaceful way. The point is, folks, musical activism is way better than violence. I do not believe that If somebody passes a law that you don't like, that gives you the right to go punch them or attack them physically. I just don't. You might disagree, but that's not something you're going to change my mind on. I feel like this is an issue that a lot of people can come together on. I feel like this is something that people should be able to put their differences aside and say, all right, you know what? I don't agree, but let's not get into a fist fight about it. So there's many examples throughout American history, some of the most beloved folk music and old school Americana music that we've heard throughout our childhood exemplify the act of musical activism in order to quell tensions, in order to diffuse situations, and in order to deal with issues in a non-violent way. And this is one of those things in history that repeats itself over and over and over. And you know what I would say? History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it definitely echoes. And we're starting to see some of those echoes today. Culture is upstream from politics. This was this phrase, I actually reversed the phrase from its original incarnation. And this phrase was invented by a genius journalist, one of these undercover, really cool, like big-brained, open-minded, out-of-the-box types of journalists. He broke a lot of big stories. I'm not going to say his name because, again, I don't know what the rules are on these platforms, and I'm not going to like come out on the line acting like I support a guy. I'm just quoting one quote from this dude, okay? If you know who I'm talking about, it's one quote, okay? Go easy on me here. The original quote is, "Politics is downstream from culture." Now, what does that mean? That means things that happen in the culture are happening separate from politics, separate from the people you elect, separate from the laws that you vote on. There's a cultural uprising. There's a zeitgeist that exists first, okay? Then the reaction to that is the political movements and the laws and the voting for the party who's responding to that and dealing with that. So we have culture, we have politics. The way I say it is culture is upstream from politics because I think the culture is where it all starts. That's the synthesis. And who has a greater influence on the culture than anybody else on the planet? Well, it's musicians and, composers and artists and producers and live show promoters and people like this who are putting their time and their money into creating entertainment that suits a particular vibe and a particular style of performance. And what that does is it creates the culture. From there, the reaction is the political issues that we've already discussed. So, one more reason for musicians to be ultra, mega, super duper aware of what in the world is going on right now so we can figure this stuff out. We can convert it into music. We can get it out there, get people to start thinking about this stuff, think outside of the box, not just regurgitating the same old thing you can see on the cable news stations day in and day out. It's the musician's job to deal with this stuff, and they're not doing it. And that's my problem with the way things are right now in this country. I'm not saying that musicians are going to wave some magical conductor's baton and all of the tensions are going to just disappear. But I do think that musicians could be doing a lot more to make people think rather than tell them what to think. And I did a whole video about this. I did a whole video on songs that were politically partisan, which is called Trump Funk, and you can see that on YouTube. And it was basically me making fun of all these artists who think they're doing the world a service by just coming out there and saying, oh, political partisanship, everything on this side is good and everything on that side is bad. Is that really where we're at right now? I don't think that all hope is lost. I really don't. I think we're in a good position now where we can turn it around. We still have time. We got the election coming up. I doubt that anything is going to change before then, but after that, I think that it's possible. I really do. What do you guys think about that as well? Definitely leave some comments. Let me know what you guys think on all of these topics. But for now, we're going to get a little bit funky with it. Here we go.